Hello. Today when I'm filming this is actually International Women's Day, so happy International Women's Day to all my female viewers, aka the 7 of you out there that consistently watch my video. I see you. I was really struggling to figure out what I wanted to film today, and I thought I would do something that was related to International Women's Day. Then I kind of realized that I'm not necessarily the best person to speak on things that are like specifically relevant to International Women's Day. There's so many other people who are more inspiring and passionate whatever about that topic. Not that I'm not passionate about it, I'm just, again, not the best person to talk about it. So I was like, what can I film that's weirdly related but not specifically about International Women's Day? And for some reason my sick and twisted mind decided to do a video on how to break up with someone. Basically how my mind worked was International Women's Day, independent woman, breaking up with your boyfriend. In all seriousness, I know a lot of people, either in my past, my present, and also me myself in the past, have really struggled with being confident and finding my independence when I was stuck in a long-term relationship. And this isn't for everybody. Some people are totally fine with seeking their potential and growing with a partner, but some people actually need some space to be by themselves to fulfill that potential and actually grow as a person. I know for me, I went through that a couple of years ago, and it really just did help propel me in the right direction as to who I wanted to be as an independent person. If you can do that in a relationship, then power to ya. I'm real proud of you, girl, because I couldn't. Honestly, this video is probably only going to relate to a small handful of you, if any of you, especially right now. But if you do find yourself thinking about your relationship and thinking as to whether or not you think that you feel a little bit stuck and you feel that you've grown apart from your partner, or you feel like you're no longer inspiring each other to be better humans, then this video is for you, because I'm pretty much gonna tell you how you should go about breaking up. If you're anything like me, breaking up with someone is the worst possible thing that I've ever had to do. It feels so icky. I'd way rather be dumped. So future boyfriend, if we have problems, just dump me, because I cannot bear dumping somebody. Breaking up with someone that you actually care about and you've just grown apart from honestly feels evil. At least for me it did, and I would rather not have to go through that. But there are certain things that you can do to show that you still respect and care about that person, but have recognized that you need to move on. Now this video is for people who feel like they've grown apart from their partner, they've outgrown their partner, the spark's no longer there, or you're seeking something else like independence or just a different relationship in general. I don't personally have any experience with malicious breakups like cheating and lying and all this other stuff that would obviously be a lot harder to deal with. I've only personally grown apart from my partners or have recognized that there needs to be some change, and I am really lucky in that sense. My relationships have been nothing short of awesome, and my breakups have been even better. I mean, breaking up is not fun in general, but mine were as good as they get. So anyways, let's just jump in, because I blabbered for like 5 minutes now. Great. Now I know a lot of my videos that give you advice usually start with reflecting internally, and this video is no different. It's really important for you to get a grasp on what you want out of the breakup, whether or not you even want the breakup, or what you want out of the relationship in general, so that you can be in the most clear headspace before you go into that conversation, because it's going to come as a huge shock to that other person, and to add your confusion on top of that already pre-existing stress is a lot for that person to deal with, and it becomes an even more confusing mess. So for example, do you really want to break up with this person because you don't see a future with them and you feel like you have to take this step in order to move forward in your life? Or is it something that you're willing to work on and talk about and try and see if you can fix the issues that you may be having in order to move forward together? Because if you don't know, they're not going to know what you're trying to say, and they're going to try to convince you of the option that they want, which may not be the option that you want and what you need. So as awful as it is to think about and kind of pre-plan before, you really need to consider whether or not you want to stay with them, or if you're willing to make it work, because whichever one you choose is going to propel you in the right direction for guiding your conversation. Now, if you really are stressed as to whether or not you should pick breaking up with a person or trying to fix it, it really does come down to you thinking about the issues that you have. Sometimes when it comes to growing apart from your partner, it's hard to actually pinpoint what the issues are. It could just be you growing growing as a person, them growing as a person, your lives differing, etc., etc. But it is good to actually outline those issues so that you can understand whether or not it's fixable or not. Once you've decided which route you're going in, do not sway from your decision, because again, if you have any bit of doubt or confusion, they are going to be 3,000 times as doubtful and confused. Don't do that to them. Don't do that to yourself. Pick a direction, but take as long as you need to make that decision and go into the conversation knowing what you want by the end of it, regardless of what they say. But basically my gist is to pick one and go with it. The next few tips are more specific to the actual breaking up part, which I know is kind of the worst part. Although I will say that the lead up to breaking up with them has to be one of the most painful things ever, because you feel like you're pre-planning to break their heart. Basically, once you get to the point where you've decided that you're ready to break up with them, you know what you're gonna say, the next thing to figure out is timing. For me, one of the hardest part was figuring out when to have the conversation, because while there's no good timing for it, there's definitely better timing. You should consider to do it at a time where they're not at a super high stress level, so that other things in their lives aren't being affected by your breakup. So if they're going through exams or they have an interview coming up, you know what I mean? You should try to have it pretty far away from a big triggering event, whether it be Valentine's Day or an anniversary or even Christmas or a birthday, just so that when you break up with them, it's not like 3 days later that it's Valentine's Day and they're sobbing all over again. But really the best time is as soon as possible. It's unfair to them to go along in your relationship saying that there's nothing wrong and that you're working towards a future with them when you are planning on breaking up with them. I know it's hard to do so, but honestly, you just gotta rip the band-aid off and hope for the best and just kind of keep those first two things in mind. And that pretty much sums up better timing. This one's a huge one. I find it super effective and really important to keep in mind. But when you're actually breaking up with them, always go to them. Never get them to come meet you somewhere or come to your house, because you really want them to be in a space where they can feel comfortable and at home and they don't have to leave and find their way home after. How shitty would it be if you just got dumped and you had to get on a bus to try and get home while you're sobbing in public? I don't know about you, but I would rather curl up in my bed and not talk to anybody and just grieve by myself. So always go to them so that you can leave and give them the space that they need to heal and sob and cry and probably punch a pillow and curse your name to the gods. Who knows? Next step has to do with how you want to start the conversation. For me, it was really hard to kind of start talking about it, because if your breakups are anything like mine, there is nothing wrong and there's nothing to trigger the beginning of the conversation. It's so much easier when something went wrong or you had a fight and then you can talk about it and then go into a breakup. It's way different when nothing's wrong and you've just decided this in your head and you go up to the person and you're like, hey, sit down. I'm about to crush you. So what I'm saying is there's no good way to start the conversation, but I do think that one of the first things you should say is to ask for the space to say everything you need to say without interruption. The reason I say this is because although ideally if you listen to my tips, you've already made the decision and you're not willing to sway from it, once you're in that room and you're talking to this person that you shared a long time with and you loved and probably still love and care about, a lot of emotions are going to come in and come into play in your conversation, and it's going to be very uncomfortable and sad and emotional, and it's really important that you get to say everything that you need to say without them chiming in, because as much as you can prepare for the conversation, it's so much harder when that person is staring at you with their sad eyes and you can physically see their heart breaking and they're chiming in being like, no, we can get past this, I will change, etc. So make sure you're asking that person to allow you to say everything you need to say before you listen to their input. They should be given the space to provide input and say what they need to say too, because it's part of their closure and their healing process, and also you can't expect them to just sit there being like. And the last thing I want to talk about has to do with what you end the conversation with. Assuming that you had a similar situation as me, where nothing really went wrong, I just kind of outgrew the relationship, it's so important to remind that person that it wasn't something that they did, so that they're not replaying things in their mind of what happened in the relationship. You can still show and express that you care and respect them as a person, even though you're breaking off the relationship as a whole. So if you do still feel a love or a care towards that person, make sure that you're telling them them that, because chances are they want to hear it. Anyways, those are the things that I found that really helped with the breakup process and that really helped to minimize the torture that follows breaking up. I hope they helped you, and I hope they relieve some stress if that's something that you've been contemplating or you've been going through, or you know somebody who's going through. So if it relates to you and if it helped you, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you want. And I'm thinking I might make another couple of videos around this topic, maybe one that compares breakups versus breaks, and another one for how to be friends with exes. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, and I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!